walk you through how to fillet a perch. It's a beautiful thing about perch, especially if you're in the state of Vermont, which I am today, is that you can harvest them at any size, any weight, any length, all that. So the first thing I do is I take my knife, I'm going to slide it under this fin, and in order to get the most meat off of this fish, I use these two fins. I line up that same angle right there. You can see that angle between the two fins. That's my base point, and that will get me the meat that I need out of here. If you want, you can touch it and feel where the meat is. I do that, then I'm going to try and cut halfway down. I don't want to cut through the spine, and it's a small fish, so I get about halfway down. And then I turn that blade once I get about here, because you start to feel the backbone. And I'm going to use the dorsal fin here as my guide. I want to cut right above that. And right, this fin, this fin, this fin. I want to cut right above the fins if I can. But if I cut through the fin, it's not the end of the fish here. You can still work with it. But see, as I go over here in the back, staying right above those two fins. Now I bring it as far down as I can without going through that tail, because I want to use that as my as a way to pull this out. Part here, you should start moving your knife slowly back and forth, and if your fillet knife's sharp, it will just start to slide right through that. And what it will do is it'll let you use the skin as your guide. So your knife can lay flat here, and if you look, I have it at a little bit of an angle. So a little bit of an angle here, like this kind of an angle. I'm just pushing down my finger, and that allows me just to use it to cut through and get all that nice juicy meat off. If you look at that skin, there's very little meat left on the skin, but no skin on the meat either. At this point, what I do is, I know where the ribs are, so I'm used to it, but if you're not sure, just you'll feel the ribs. So these are your ribs here. So I go a little bit past this, and I just cut up over. And if you want, you can just come straight down, and that will get the ribs right out of there. Don't worry if you leave a little meat on. That time I did, because a lot of people doing it the first time are gonna leave a lot of meat. So that's just showing you how it works. And then I always take the meat and I touch it, make sure there's no bones left in there. There's a little tiny fillet I got out of that guy. Let's flip it over and go to the other side. You don't have to have a board like this. It's nice to have the clamp, but I've done it without the clamp too. It's just fine. So again, I'm using those two fins as my guide. So see how I cut an angle similar to where these two are. And then at that point, I just turn my knife at an angle and start cutting. Trying to use that dorsal fin as my guide of how deep I should go. And then I'm using, if you didn't clue in, I'm using the spine here as my guide on where to go here. Cut through towards the tail. I always move the other skin underneath. And then I start it like this. Be careful, because if your hand's over in front like mine is, just get it started and slide it down. At that point, cut around those ribs real quick, as close as you can, but it's better to have less meat and no bones than more meat and bones. Tiny fillet. So I'm gonna do this other one real quick without walking you through it verbally. I'm just gonna do it so you can see how I do it. It should take about a minute and a half or less. Just put down. There's the first fillet. Oops, cut right through there. See that? Accidents happen. That's okay. Just restart. No big deal. Just like that. Now I'm going to clean up the fillets from the ribs, or the ribs from the fillets, I should say. There's the first one. Check the meat. See that little thing I don't want in there? I'll just cut that piece out. Lose a little meat, but it's okay. Second one's a little better. Right there. All right.